In today's video, we're going to take a look at how to ask the right questions to make sure that you get the sale. You know, I've done a lot of sales training. In fact, so much sales training, I couldn't tell you how many hours, or how many books I've read, how many audios I've listened to, or how many courses I've done. But I can tell you that just about every single one of those things that I've attended in sales training have taught me one thing, and that's the correlation between your ears and your mouth. And that is that you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth, and you should do twice as much listening as you do talking when you're in the sales meeting. Now, one of the keys to being great at sales is asking the right questions. No one likes to be pitched at. You know, you think about those sales meetings where you've sat in and you just tune out. I know for me, I get a call from somebody who wants to pitch something to me. Instead of asking questions to ask me what I want to get out of what it is they might offer, or what my problems or frustrations are that they may be able to solve, they just tell me what they've got to offer without even considering whether or not I'm even interested. And I call it sales vomit. It's just vomiting on your prospect by just garble coming out of your mouth of what you feel is important when you haven't checked to see what the prospect wants to get out of the conversation. So the key to getting a sale is asking the right questions. So we need to understand a little bit about the psychology of asking the right questions and how that works. Now, there are different types of questions that you can ask, and I always suggest starting with open-ended questions to begin the sales relationship. And they're questions that start with things like who, what, where, when, why, and how. So for example, when was the last time you, whatever it might be, how many times a week do you, what things have you done to try and fix, where have you looked before in the past to solve this problem? Or, so by asking these open-ended questions, there's 2 things that are happening. First of all, is you can't get a yes or a no answer to an open-ended question. It has to be, elaborated. It can't be just yes, no, because they're not great for the sales rapport. Once again, you'll be doing more talking than your prospect. So by saying something like, when was the last time you looked at an alternative provider? They can't just go yes. They have to answer that question. Now, they might say last month. Well, then you've got to ask them to elaborate a little bit more on it. So if you go last month, when last month? And what happened during that conversation? How did you go? What questions did you ask? What did you feel when you looked around? What did you find? Who did you speak to? So all of these open-ended questions are going to help you then gather more information about what the prospect's experience was, and then how can you help them. So it helps you then identify what they need so you can offer a solution. The second important thing about asking questions is that I only ask a yes and no question if either A, I know the answer, or B, the answer doesn't really matter. So, if I'm not selling spaghetti and I say, do you like spaghetti? And they say no or yes, it doesn't matter. But if it's important that they say yes, that they like spaghetti, then I'm not going to ask that unless I know they're going to say yes. So for example, and that's called a rhetorical question. So for example, I might say, there's a company getting around at the moment, which is like a multi-level marketing company, but they have a great question they ask to get your attention. And the question is this: they said, imagine if every time you switched on a light, you used the power, you had a telephone conversation, or you could see someone, you were making money. Would you like to find out more about that? Or would that be a worthwhile thing? It's very hard for you to say no to that. Now, it's probably a little bit too good to be true, and so you've got to be careful that when you're asking your questions or you're making your statements, it's not too good to be true, because if it is too good to be true, it probably is. But that just gives you an example of what a rhetorical question is. Would you like to make more money? The answer is usually yes. Would you like to live longer? The answer is probably going to be yes. Would you like to be fitter? Would you like to be better looking? All these questions that I can ask that you'll answer yes to. Would you like to die early? Well, of course, the answer is going to be no. So by asking questions that I know the answer to, then I can control the conversation. And that really is the key to getting the sale. Now, the whole idea behind this is that you want to make sure that your customer is telling you everything that they can possibly tell you, so you can come up with the right solution. And so by asking the open-ended questions, the who, what, where, when, why, and how, you're gathering information. And then what I can use is that information I can then use to offer my prospect a solution. So I can say, based on what you've told me, I think that this may be of benefit to you. And or you can give them an either or suggestion. Say, I think that either A or either B would be better for you. Which one do you think is going to suit you better? So it's vitally important to remember that in any sales relationship, You want to do more listening than you do speaking, because if you're just doing all the talking, then your prospect's probably going to go to sleep and they're not going to want to buy from you. Hopefully that's helped you understand a little bit more how to ask the right questions to get the sale.